My name's Ryan Michler. We're here this week at Origin's Immersion Camp. This is my third year here. And yeah, it's been an incredible camp. I'm learning a lot, and it's been pretty incredible to be here with incredible people who know a lot more than I do, and being able to learn and glean information from them. Yeah, so I came to Origin's Immersion Camp 3 years ago, and I had known Pete Roberts with Origin, and so he invited me out here, and I think I trained maybe a handful of times when I first came out. Really enjoyed it, but then I got back into my daily grind and daily life, and so I stopped training altogether outside of that week and those 5 lessons or classes leading up to the week. And then I had the opportunity to come back out for the second time, and I spent a lot more time training and getting ready and being prepared for it. And then I actually ended up moving here to Maine because I was enamored with the process and the growth and Jujitsu, and being here in Maine is just beautiful. So moved myself and my wife and our 4 children here to Maine, and that was about 2.5 years or so ago, and I've been hyper consistent for the past 2.5 years, and so this is our 3rd year here. And I think this is my favorite camp. I was looking forward to this more than anything in years past, just because, and I'm finding this to be true, that I know enough that things are making sense. So although I might see a new strategy or a technique that I'm not familiar with, I know enough where it makes sense why that would work. I can start making these connections that weren't there before, so I've really enjoyed this year because of that. Yeah, I've always been really interested in martial arts. I was very athletic as a kid in high school. I played football, I wrestled for a couple of years, I played baseball, so being physical, trying to be athletic, that wasn't anything that was new to me. But in the course of graduating high school and getting into my daily life and daily activity, I didn't really have an opportunity to do that anymore. And so I had a lot of friends who trained Jujitsu, and one of them in particular, Matthew Arrington, invited me to come train with him. Him and I were business partners with some events that we were running for men. And so he invited me to train with him, and I did. And I think the first time we trained, he got me an omoplata, which of course I didn't know what it was. And he also submitted me in a mounted arm triangle. So he thought it was pretty funny. I didn't think it was very funny. But also, I was very interested how this individual could do something like that to me, who prides himself on being strong and athletic. And so I was very curious about how that could have been the case, and that was the outcome. So that's what got me interested in it. And then also just the hardship and the challenge of being physical and having somebody else trying to exert their will upon you, and you trying to do the same thing to somebody else is just not an experience or an opportunity that most men and women get throughout life. And so, outside of maybe a medical hardship or a divorce or a bankruptcy, most people's bad days are they got cut off on the road, or somebody at McDonald's got their order wrong. And I really felt like I needed something more to paint a realistic picture about what is hardship and what isn't. And that's what I've learned through Jiu-Jitsu, is that putting myself in those difficult and physically challenging situations sets a reference point for the rest of my life, and what is hard and what isn't, and how to overcome challenges and obstacles that are difficult, and some that are just part of the day-to-day area of life. Yeah, so that first class I went to, it was more, I don't even really know what happened. I was like, how is he bending my arm this way? How's this going this way right now? It was such a weird experience. And I knew I was going to come out here to immersion camp, but I actually took a long pause after immersion camp, again, because I just got busy with everyday life, and it's so much easier to go on the path of least resistance. But it was always in the back of my mind that I had this curiosity about this physical, demanding, challenging activity over here. And so by the time I came to second camp, and really started to understand philosophy and some of the technique, and then getting around the people who are in this activity, they're the best people in the world, frankly. And so it had to do with a lot of different factors, like being curious about it, physical hardship and challenge, which I knew was something I needed. I feel better when I have that. And then just being around great people. And every day I go to class, it's still a struggle, it's still a challenge. I feel like I'm just getting started, even though I've been training for about 2.5 years now. Every day I feel like I know less and less because I learn more and more. But I like that challenge, physical, mental stimulus, and it's fascinating. That's probably the right word I would use. It's very fascinating, and it keeps me intrigued in a way that a lot of other things haven't, whether it's CrossFit or strength training. This has really engaged my body and my mind pretty well. Yeah, Jujitsu has really helped me with our movement, my business, Order of Man. Mostly what we do is we're helping give men the tools and the information and the resources and conversations and guidance they need to thrive. But what I found is that as I was pouring into these other men and trying to give them everything that I felt like they needed, I really didn't have a whole lot of outlets for myself. And so I was out there trying to lead other people, and I was having a hard time leading myself. So what I found through Jujitsu is that this is an opportunity for me to test my mettle. It's an opportunity for me to improve physically and mentally and emotionally. And as I develop myself, then I have a greater capacity to be able to serve other individuals. And so I've noticed that Jujitsu has been something that has made me a better human. It's made me a better father, a better leader, and that in turn is translated into helping other men do the same. In fact, we've had hundreds, if not thousands, of men who have joined or started Jujitsu because they've seen me do it over the past 3 years, and they see how enamored I am with it and how much better I'm getting because I'm doing this, and they feel like maybe there's something to it. And I think the overwhelming majority of those individuals who get involved are experiencing the same things I have over the past several years.
Before.
I get a lot of questions from the men who listen to our podcast and are tapped in and tuned into what we're doing, and they're asking questions like, I'm thinking about taking my first class, what should I be aware of, or what do I need to learn, or why do you do this? These are some of the questions, and I understand the question. I really do. I get it. It's probably a question that I've asked myself and other people, but at the same time, I don't really like the question totally when people say, what should I know when I go to class? Because they're overthinking it. And I think what ends up happening when people overthink things is they justify and they rationalize and they give themselves little outs and excuses as to why they shouldn't do it. So if you're thinking about going to a class, or you have a friend or a family member who's invited you, don't overthink it. Just go, check it out, see what you think, go with an open heart and an open mind. I say both are actually really important. The open mind is that you don't come with an ego thinking that you know better or you're fully capable. You're gonna find out very quickly you're probably not, even if you're hyper athletic and strong and you pride yourself on being that kind of person. But the guys with the ego are the ones who end up quitting before they even really give themselves a chance to succeed. The next component I said is having an open heart, and that really means just having the right motive and intention about being there. If your goal is to show up to prove how big of a badass you are, you're not going to prove that that's the case, and it's going to destroy you emotionally for sure. So the right motive is to go to improve yourself, to get better, to learn a new skill that's going to serve you, to put yourself in hardship so that you have a frame of reference for what is hard and what isn't hard. And so anybody who's thinking about getting into jiu-jitsu or even just going to a class, open mind, open heart, it will go so much better if you do it that way. So if I were to rewind and have the ability to talk to me as a white belt, I would say don't place so many unrealistic expectations on myself. Because again, as somebody who prides himself on being strong and athletic and capable, you come into jiu-jitsu and you're gonna find out really quickly that you're not as good as you think you are. You're gonna find that out within the first few minutes. And if you place these weird sort of expectations and demands of yourself, you aren't going to meet those expectations, and what you're going to end up doing is you're going to quit. You're going to throw in the towel because you're going to consider yourself a failure. There's days that I get frustrated and I get down on myself, and I'm learning not to do that, because the ups and downs and the highs and the lows and the good days and the bad days of training are just part of the process. And I shouldn't expect that I'm gonna be the best of the best. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna work towards that, I certainly am, but if I'm placing faulty or unrealistic expectations on myself, it's really a recipe for disaster, and you just don't give yourself enough time in the game to thrive and to learn and to grow and develop the way you could if you just kind of let everything ride and just be present in the moment as opposed to what you think you should be. You know, there's a lot of martial arts that you can choose from. I wrestled in high school for a couple of years. You can get into Muay Thai and Taekwondo and Karate and Jujitsu. There's so many different practices and arts. I wish I could tell you I had a good reason for getting into Jujitsu other than the friends that I had and the people I knew. That's what they were doing. So people ask me all the time, why not do something else? Well, this is what my friends were doing. This is what the people around me were doing. And since I've got involved, I feel like I lucked my way into it because that's what they were doing. I think there is a lot of benefit to Jujitsu. That's not to say there aren't benefits to other forms of martial arts, but this has been something that's been engaging for me, and it's what my friends do, and it's what we do together, and it makes sense for us. I can't answer the question of where Jiu-Jitsu is going to be in the next 25 years because I feel like it's so fast-paced and so evolving. You know, I see my son who's 13 who trains, and to see how much further down the path he is than I was at 13. Now, I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu, but I was wrestling and I was athletic and in sports, but to see how he's come along, to see how it helps foster creativity is pretty interesting. And even when you come to a camp like this or just go to class, you're always exposed to new ideas and new information, and put your foot this way and hold the grip this way. Just little things that are going to morph and develop. So although I don't know where it's going to go, I'm pretty excited to see how the sport will continue to evolve and grow, and how I can be just a small part of that evolution as well.